Happy Monday, everybody. And here we are for Just Parlays. Jim Williams along with Chris King. And Christopher, it was a interesting final, first weekend of the March Madness. And, we did mention to people that stay away from the folks in the Big Ten. And of their 9 teams, 7 of them didn't make it through the weekend.
That's true. We talked about Iowa losing earlier last week when they lost to Richmond in the opening round, and then we saw, of course, Rutgers went down in the play-in game. Indiana got smashed by St. Mary's.
Right.
And since then, we watched Illinois get stifled by Houston yesterday, where Houston did what every other team in the nation has tried to do, and that's stop Kofi Cockburn from doing a ton of damage and make other guys beat you. And for once, somebody actually made that happen, and Illinois didn't have any answers.
Right.
Michigan State, we expected that they weren't going to go anywhere because they don't have a go-to guy on the offensive end of the floor. It extended the Coach K retirement tour. I was hoping personally that Michigan State was going to lose in round 1 because I thought Davidson was going to knock them out. And then who else was
Ohio State?
Ohio State. They did not look all that great yesterday either. And who's the other team that were missing?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin lost to Iowa State. I know guys like Reichel and everybody weren't high on Iowa State because they struggled offensively down the stretch. They only scored 36 against Oklahoma State. They scored 41 against Texas Tech in the Big 12 tournament. But, when you play defense as well as the Cyclones have done in the first 2 rounds, you don't need a whole lot of points.
Nope. And there were a lot of low-scoring games, too. And then you got Miami, who played just ridiculous defense and also didn't turn the ball over. They only turned the ball over 4 times in 2 games in the entire tournament. So they've, Jim Larrañaga's team has done pretty well.
Yeah, so probably a wise move that Miami gave him a contract extension already.
Yeah. Not a bad idea at this point.
But you have to think that, maybe that took away some of the uncertainty. We talked last week about LSU being a team with uncertainty because Will Wade got fired and everything else. So maybe Miami could just focus on playing basketball instead of wondering, is our coach going to end up going somewhere else next week?
Right, for sure. All right, well, before we get started, we want to talk about one of our 2 promotions here with our buddies at BetMGM. Let's start with this one. BetMGM will give new customers a risk-free bet on your first sports wager up to $1,000. Now, only new players are eligible for this bonus, and it must be claimed within 7 days after signing up. Now, you add to that once you create an account and make your first deposit of placing any real money in the sports bet between $10 and $1,000, just $10 and $1,000, they'll match it, okay? So it's a very good deal. You must be 21 years of age to participate, and as we always say, wager wisely, okay? So there you go, folks. Let's start. We've got some
before we get into something, Jim, there is breaking news from the National Football League.
Okay.
The Atlanta Falcons have agreed to trade Matt Ryan, who's been their franchise quarterback for, 14, 15 years now, to the Indianapolis Colts for a 3rd-round draft pick.
A 3rd-round draft pick. Okay.
Now, take note that this trade incurs a dead cap hit for the Falcons of over $40.5 million. The largest dead cap hit in the history of the National Football League.
Okay. Well,
now, if I'm the Falcons, why am I trading a guy for a 3rd-round pick? I get he's 36. I get he's been around for a while. But let's face it, they tried to get Deshaun Watson. It didn't pan out.
Right.
Of course, Watson then backtracked and went to Cleveland. That's a whole different mess that we could talk about if we wanted to. And now Baker Mayfield said the one team he wanted to play for was the Colts. Now where's he going to go?
If I'm Cleveland, I'm trading him to the National Football Conference, the NFC. Atlanta might be where he ends up. If that's, but again, he's a rental because he becomes a free agent at the end of the season. So, Matt Ryan for a 3rd-round draft pick. That's a little odd.
That's according to Adam Schefter, Chris Mortensen, and company. announcing that that's the deal. So is Mike Garofalo and Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport also reporting that.
Okay. Hey, one quick thing before we move on, and that is we didn't get a chance because of the weekend situation to mourn the passing of a really good guy, John Clayton, who for many years was one of the top guys when it came to breaking news on the National Football League. We will miss John, who's a fantastic guy, a really nice man, and someone who always, he looked like a college professor with the glasses and the bald head and the jacket. But he was always, he was money when it came to talking about things that happened in the NFL, and he will be missed. John Clayton, rest in peace, my friend. Very nice man.
And of course, he had that iconic "This Is Sports Center" commercial that everybody remembers, where he takes off the Velcro suit look thing and has a Slayer T-shirt on underneath and starts headbanging to death metal and eating Chinese food, yelling to his mom how, of course, he's done with his segment.
Right.
That will probably epitomize what John Clayton was. And like you said, he was a major cog in ESPN's broadcasting and reporting about the National Football League.
Yeah. He and Chris Mortensen became early. They were the guys who broke the stories on the NFL for them, and John had followed the NFL for a number of fine publications before he got to ESPN, including Sports Illustrated and others. So,
paved the way for guys like Sal Paolantonio and guys like that.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So we'll miss you, John. And so now let's get ready and go to basketball.
And I know everybody's excited because, there's no Sweet 16 action till Thursday. But don't worry, there's plenty of games involving teams you've probably never heard of or don't care about. But hey, that's what college basketball is about in the month of March with all these pay-to-play tournaments.
And speaking of that, South Alabama takes on a team that we actually saw listed in this group one time before this year. USC Upstate. I remember that we had them. I have no idea who they were playing, but I do recall.
Yeah, I think they probably were going to get smashed by somebody else.
True, but I do remember we did go, and that's University of South Carolina for those of you. It's not University of Southern California Upstate.
No, I think I had them when they played Wake Forest back in December.
Might have been.
That or Ohio. Those are the only two that really jumped out.
Yeah. So.
And Dave Dickerson and the Spartans, they're somehow in this tournament. And despite being 2 games under 500 when the tournament started, they somehow went on the road and upset App State 80-74 last Tuesday to advance them to this one. Bad news is they have to play South Alabama, who's probably one of the best teams left in these other tournaments that's not in March Madness. The Jaguars under Richie Riley, 20-11. They're coming off an upset loss in the Sun Belt tournament to Little Rock in a game where they forgot to guard anybody shooting threes. That was a disappointing performance for sure. They beat Southeastern Louisiana in the opening round of the tournament last Wednesday. This game's going to be in Mobile. Let's face it, USC Upstate, they're 15-16 overall, like we said. Jaguars 20-11. The Jaguars good on the offensive end. Well, they're 161st. They're 80th in field goal percentage, 81st in 2-point shooting. They don't shoot a lot of threes. But the good part is they get to face a USC Upstate team that doesn't play defense. They're 274th in scoring defense, 196th in field goal percentage defense. Opposing teams shoot better than 51% from inside the arc, 32.6% from three-point range. USC Upstate right around there with South Alabama offensively, 71.2 points a game, 44.8% from the floor. They shoot the ball well from three, and they're pretty good at the free throw line, but they're going to run into a South Alabama team that plays excellent defense. Like I said, Richie Riley's team 30th in the country in scoring defense, 63.3 points a night, 30th in field goal percentage defense at 40.2. Teams only shoot 45.9% from inside the arc, 31.2% for outside it. It's going to be a tough night for USC Upstate on the offensive end. On top of that, they're 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 against teams with a winning record. 1-3-1 against the spread in their last 5 on the road. South Alabama, this line actually shifted. South Alabama was originally favored by 10. It's down to 8.5. I like it a whole lot more at 8.5 than I did at 10. I'll take the Jaguars. to move on in the all-exciting the Basketball Classic, which I think was just rebranded something else. I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, it's the pay me to get in and you can play. All right, so South Alabama will take over USC upstate, and we won't have to worry about them till next year. And moving on, we've got a name team here from football. We know Coastal Carolina from football. We know Florida Gulf Coast from years past in the NCAA. As a matter of fact, they were the St. Peter's, the first ever St. Peter's. They were the first 15 seed to make it to the it was the Final Four, or was it the Elite Eight?
No, Sweet 16.
Sweet 16. So yeah, Florida Gulf Coast made it back in the day, and now they're facing Coastal Carolina in the not NCAA tournament.
That's right. This one is another matchup from the all popular TBC. It's coming in from Conway at the HTC Center. Coastal Carolina, everybody might not be familiar. Their coach is Cliff Ellis, who has been around for seemingly ever.
Yeah.
Ellis has won over 800 games, the Division I level. He's 817 and 540. He's been around since 1975. And ironically enough, Jim, you know where he started his career?
Where?
South Alabama.
What goes around comes around sometimes.
How about that? Talking about coming full circle, huh?
Yeah.
He's also coached at Clemson. He spent a decade at Auburn, and he's been at Coastal Carolina since 07, 08. He's won everywhere he's gone, and it's a plus. I mean, he took South Alabama to back-to-back NCAA tournaments in 78, 79, and 79, 80. Here he gets to face a Florida Gulf Coast team that still likes to do a ton of dunks. But they don't have a coach because Michael Fly has left the program, so they're kind of flying along in the interim situation. Brody, how did Davidson do it? They covered. So, to me, that's a win. How did Michigan State do yesterday?
Not well.
Florida Gulf Coast, they like to run. They're 32nd in scoring offense at 78 points a game, 98th field goal percentage, 33rd in two-point shooting. They shoot a ton of threes, 11th in the country at 10.2 a night. They're 102nd in three-point shooting, but they struggle at the charity stripe. Coastal Carolina, 45th in scoring defense, 64.5 points a game. 5th in field goal percentage defense, 38.3%. So Cliff Ellis, he's been around a while, but he still knows how to coach teams defensively.
Yep.
They're 42nd in two-point defense. They're 13th in three-point defense. So even though they give up a bunch of threes, teams are having to jack up quite a few attempts to get those threes. Just 29.2% from beyond the arc. The Chanticleers are above average offensively. Florida Gulf Coast wouldn't know defense if it smacked them in the face. They're 286th, giving up 73.4 points a game. 206th in two-point defense, 293rd in threes allowed, 191st in three-point defense. Coastal Carolina 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 overall. 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 as a favorite. Florida Gulf Coast 2-8 in their last 10 on the road. 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage better than 600. Look for Cliff Ellis to put another one in the win column as they move on in this all-exciting basketball classic tournament. It's been a nice run for Florida Gulf Coast. Comes to an end here.
Well, their ladies team was in the NCAA tournament, and they bowed out yesterday. So
there were some upsets over on that side of the bracket too. I mean, let's not take anything away. I mean, Baylor went out in both tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa's gone out in both tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
They were both expected to make runs, at least on the women's side. Baylor was a 2 seed. I'm not 100% sure what seed Iowa was, but they should. Caitlin Clark struggled, and they blew a bunch of chances to tie the game or win it at the end of regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting to see how there's symmetry with those teams where, they were expected to be good teams on both sides, and both of them are done by the time weekend 1 is over.
They're home. So, there you go. All right. That's it in college basketball, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting down, and we were talking a little bit earlier about the trade deadline in the NHL. Now, for those of you who are following it, it is 3 p.m. or just about the time we will leave today. 3 p.m. is the deadline. Now, just like in Major League Baseball, just like in, pretty much everybody else that has a trade deadline, you probably won't hear all the trades that were made until 4 or 5 or even 6 o'clock, because they have to first go to the league office. The league office has to look at it. All the paperwork has to be in place. And once that's done, then they can officially announce that there's been a trade. That being said, there's always the rumor mill that says, okay, this trade is coming down, and we'll see. But at this point in time, Chris, you had mentioned that Marc-Andre Fleury was picked up. And,
he was traded to Minnesota for a conditional second-round pick that becomes a first if Minnesota makes the Western Conference Finals and Fleury wins at least four games in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs.
And if pigs lie. Those are all the chances that it's going to happen. So, with that,
like I said, when we were talking in the pre-show, like I said, I know Toronto had kicked the tires on him, and the speculation was that they wanted multiple first-rounders and one of Toronto's top prospects and a player. So it just seems strange that all of a sudden they dropped from that to a second-round pick that could become a first.
Well, they could have got Matt Ryan for a lot less,
They could have got a head of lettuce.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of trades, Washington reacquired Marcus Johansson today as well from the Kraken. They traded Daniel Sprong, a 4th-round pick this year and a 6th-round pick next year, to the Kraken.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the Rangers finally did something in the trade deadline. They picked up defenseman Justin Braun from the Flyers for a 3rd-rounder next year.
Okay. So things are moving. And,
of course, there were big deals over the weekend, too, Jim. I know you heard about Claude Giroux getting traded from the Flyers to the Panthers.
That was a surprise, but yeah.
Yeah, for Owen Tippett, a 1st-round pick in 2024 and a 3rd-rounder in 2023. Yesterday, the Maple Leafs finally got a defenseman. They got Mark Giordano from the Kraken along with Colin Blackwell for 2nd-rounders in 2022 and 2023 and a 3rd-rounder in 2024. Sure, Giordano was great, 5 years ago. Won a Vezina, or not a Vezina, Norris a couple of years ago. He's 37 or 38. You have to wonder what he can do at this point, and it doesn't alleviate the problem that the Leafs have right now, which is goaltending. They put Peter Mrazek on waivers. If anybody picks him up, they're stupid, because I wouldn't pay him any money for being a scrub. But, what can you do?
We'll see. And the Lightning picked up a left winger on the weekend.
Right, Brandon Hagel from the Blackhawks.
Right.
The only thing that seems strange to me about that deal is what they gave up for him. I mean, that's a pretty steep price to pay for a guy. They gave up 2 first-rounders and 2 guys. I know that it's a first round in 23 and 24, but still. Yeah,
they're in cap hell, so I don't think they couldn't probably. They had to give up that to get him because they couldn't take his pay. Couldn't take on his salary. So
true.
That's usually what happens.
The Bruins got Hampus Lindholm from the Ducks, and then turned around and signed him to
an extension,
massive deal. It's going to be interesting. The guy, he's 28 now. By the time he finishes out that contract, he'll be 36 or 37.
There you go.
It's an 8-year deal worth $52 million.
And that's all guaranteed money. So
right.
There you go. All right, let's go to the ice and see what we got for today. Coastal Carolina is playing on the ice against the...
Yep, they moved. No, we've got Colorado and Edmonton. That game coming in from the Ball Arena in Denver. Still waiting to see if the Avalanche are going to try to swing any deals leading into the deadline. The Oilers, of course, always looking for goaltending. So, unfortunately, there's not a lot of it out there to pick up. Meanwhile, the Oilers 35-23-4. They're 16-11-4 on the road, but they have to go to Denver, and everybody knows how well the Avalanche play at home. They're 24-3-3 on home ice this season. Supposed to be Mike Smith, 6-8-1 with a 339 goals against and an 885 save percentage against Darcy Kemper, 29-8-2 with a 241 goals against and 923 save percentage and 5 shutouts. These teams like to score, let's be honest. The Oilers are 7th in the league with goals for 3.37. Colorado's second at 3.84 behind only Florida. Meanwhile, Edmonton 21st in goals against at 3.16 to Colorado's 7th at 2.77. The Avs 7-0 in their last 7 on 2 days of rest. They're 44-8 in their last 52 as a home favorite. They're 44-8 in their last 52 at home period. They're 13-3 in their last 16 on Monday. Edmonton 2-5 in their last 7 against the Central, and 2-6 in their last 8 as a road underdog. I know everybody likes Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Unfortunately, neither one of those guys plays goaltending. Without a goaltender, it's tough to slow down Colorado, especially in the Ball Arena, where we've seen them pile up goals by the truckload.
Right. Nathan likes the Bruins on the puck line.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is, they're playing Montreal. Everybody knows Montreal is not a good hockey team by any stretch of the imagination. The great thing about Montreal lately is they've been an over machine, too, because the over's 8-1-1 in their last 10. It's also 7-2-1 in Boston's last 10. Or no, I'm sorry, it's 5-3-2 in Boston's last 10. So it wouldn't surprise me if you see a 5-2, 5-3 type of game out of those two teams as well. Nathan brings up a valid point that Montreal is talking about trading half their guys. Of course, they already traded Tyler Toffoli last month. They traded Ben Cherio over the week, or a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. They kind of all run together. But yeah, Montreal's a team in flux. They're going to be because they're a team that's bad. I mean, let's face it, they're at the bottom of the standings. They're worse than Ottawa. They're worse than Buffalo. They're worse than everybody in the West. So, I mean, I get Jake Allen is supposed to start tonight unless they decide to try to trade him too, in which case you can go back to Samuel Montembeault, which doesn't impress anyone either. But yeah, it's not another trade call. Our source in the St. Louis Blues are going to nickname from Detroit. No information about the return on that deal yet. But since the week's, finger play, the trend of our good friend Detroit Lee, Stevie Y is going to be making some deals to bring in some picks and stuff for the future.
So now, ahead and talk about the Wild, right? Against Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, good old Vegas. What can we say about Vegas that hasn't already been said? They played terrible hockey for a long stretch. They managed to win a couple games over the weekend. But the problem is they still have issues in net. Robin Leonard, still out with an injury. I don't know if they have a timetable for his return. I know a lot of people were kicking around that he could end up going back to Vegas, which we now know is not going to be the case. And apparently they've switched goaltender now because it's going to be Logan Thompson, 3-2 with a 298 goals against a 913 save percentage, starting instead of Laurent Brossoit. Meanwhile, Cam Talbot's still expected to get the start despite the Wild acquiring Fleury in this one. Vegas has a long injury report. Max Pacioretty's out again. Riley Smith is out. Ben Hutton is out. Alec Martinez is still out. And Mark Stone you probably won't see anytime soon since they've got him on long-term IR in order to get Jack Eichel's contract under the books. Just taking a look here, Vegas 14th in goals for, 3.14, 16th in goals against. Minnesota 3rd in the league at 3.67 goals a game. They're 22nd in goals against. That's probably why Bill Guerin went out and got Fleury, because he, as advanced an age as Fleury is, he's still done a good job behind the Chicago team, keeping them in games. But here Minnesota averages 4.11 goals a night on home ice, which definitely works in their favor. They're 39-14 in their last 53 at home. Vegas 1-6 in their last 7 as an underdog. 0-7 in their last 7 against Central Division teams. 0-6 in their last 6 after allowing 2 or less, coming in off a 5-1 win over Los Angeles. And 0-5 in their last 5 on the road. I like Minnesota. I think you could go with the over there as well. I think the Wild, you said they average 4.11 goals a game. They give up 3.22, so the average home game for the Wild sees an average of 7.33 goals a game. which is almost half a goal more than their season average of 6.87.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, plenty of chances for fireworks from that one. And Zach, like we said before, I could see Boston, Montreal going over 6 as well. Both teams have been playing towards the over of late.
Absolutely. Well, at this point, we're getting ready to talk about the NBA, and that brings us to our second big opportunity to talk about what's going on with our friends at BetMGM. Now, here's the deal. The deal is this, and that is you should BetMGM app. Again, this is for first-time users. Then place a bet of at least $10 on any NBA game and get $200 if either team hits a three-pointer in the game. All you have to do is click on the BetMGM link to play below in our show box, and that goes for the other MGM promotion that we talked about earlier in the show. So again, use your BetMGM app, then place a bet of at least $10 on any NBA game. You get $200 if either team hits a three-pointer. Click on the MGM link in our show box below. Remember that you must be 21 years of age to play, and always bet responsibly. So there you go on that. And with that, we head to the National Basketball Association. And tonight, there's there it is. The fade the Lakers. That's all we need to know on this one, right?
Yeah, that's what Tim always says. Fade the Lakers, and that's what we're looking at here. I mean, Cleveland's only favored 5.5 project. The Lakers 30-41, 10-24 on the road. Cleveland 41-30 overall. They played pretty well at home. They are 23-12. The Lakers 13th in scoring offense at 111.2, 11th field goal percentage, 46.5, and 19th three-point shooting. But they're going to run into a Cleveland team that is third in the league in scoring defense at 104.2, 7th in field goal percentage defense at 44.8, 13th in three-point defense. Cleveland doesn't do a ton offensively, which is weird because they've got some good offensive players. They're just 23rd in scoring offense at 107.2, 9th in field goal percentage, 15th in three-point shooting. On the plus side, they play a Lakers team that doesn't know what defense is. They're 26th in scoring defense at 114 points a game, 20th in field goal percentage, 46.4, 14th in three-point defense at 35.1. Cleveland 5-0-1 against the spread their last 6 on one day of rest. 6-2-1 in their last 9 at home against teams with a road winning percentage below 400. The Lakers 1-4 against the spread their last 5 as an underdog, 1-4 in their last 5 as a road underdog, and 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 on the road. Just taking a look here at the latest injury report from the league to see if they've got anything worth telling us about. And it says that the Lakers will still not have Anthony Davis. No surprise there. Kendrick Nunn, still no surprise there. Wayne Ellington, questionable. So is LeBron.
Right. This is homecoming for LeBron. So
yeah, today I figure he's going to play.
Yeah, he'll play.
Wenyen Gabriel and Taylor Horton Tucker both probable with ankle sprains for the Lakers. For Cleveland, it's the same guys that have been out for a while. Jared Allen has that broken finger on his hand. Rajon Rondo out with a sprained ankle. Dean Wade, nobody cares. He's out with a sore knee. And, of course, Sexton has been out forever with that left knee meniscus tear that required surgery. So no real surprises on the injury report. Like you said, it's homecoming for LeBron, but that'll just make the Cavaliers will want to stick it to him. There you go.
Better game between Boston and Oklahoma City. Now, you had mentioned, as we talked in the pre-show, that Oklahoma City had a wonderful victory over the Orlando Magic.
No, they lost.
A loss. Okay, a loss to the Orlando Magic over the weekend. And if that's not shame enough, they have to go play Boston. So,
if that's not, they scored 85 points against the Magic.
With the I-4 Magic.
85 points. The final score was 90-85. Oklahoma City has lost 9 in a row coming into this one. Now, I know that Boston played yesterday, but they beat Denver by 20 on the road in the altitude in Celtics have won 3 straight. They've won 8 of 9. I know everybody can say this could be a letdown game and all that, but let's face it, Oklahoma City is dead last in all the major offensive categories. They're dead last in points per game, 102.8. Dead last in field goal percentage. Dead last in three-point shooting. And if that wasn't bad enough, it wasn't bad enough that they're dead last in those categories. It wasn't bad enough they scored 85 against Orlando. You've got to play Boston, who leads the league in scoring defense, field goal percentage defense, and three-point defense. I don't think you could write up anything worse for Oklahoma City than the matchup that they've got here. Just taking a quick look, neither team has submitted an injury report yet because they're not required to with the league until later this afternoon, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
But let's face it, Boston 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 on the road. That's 8-2 now since they covered last night. 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 overall since they covered again. 7-2 is their last 9 as a road favorite. Thunder 2-6-2 against the spread in their last 10 at home. 2-6-2 in their last 10 as a home underdog. So they're not even favored at home most of the time. And the Celtics 5-1-1 in the last 7 meetings in Oklahoma City. I'm going to take Boston, giving a truckload of points, just because.
AJS wants to know about the first half on the Celtics. What do you think?
Let me see what the line on the half is, because I haven't looked at it, but I would imagine that seeing how poorly we've seen Oklahoma City play basketball all season, it wouldn't be much of a surprise for Boston to be up comfortably.
Nathan, you're right. It's a long road trip for the Lakers as well, going from, on the coast. So you're right there. And Superslide wants to know 85 points. Have we gone back to the 80s?
Actually, you probably would have gone back to the 60s because, there are some teams that could score in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's just going to be an ugly night. I would take Boston in the first half. I can't see why they wouldn't be up comfortably, just given as poorly as Oklahoma City is offensively. You look, for as poor as the Thunder shoot the ball, they actually take the 8th most field goal attempts per game in the league. And they're still dead last in scoring. So
there you go.
There's just nothing that screams pick Oklahoma City because they're terrible.
Please take it. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently Marcus Smart may not take the floor tonight for the Celtics. He's dealing with an illness. Robert Williams III still not playing with a knee injury, but he hasn't really been playing much lately. Meanwhile, if you look at the injury report for the Thunder, it's a mess. Lou Dort done for the year. Derek Favors out indefinitely with a back injury. Josh Giddey out indefinitely with a hip injury. Ty Jerome done for the year. Mike Muscala done for the year. Kendrick Williams out indefinitely. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl out until late March with a broken foot. Gilgeous-Alexander is questionable. If Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't play tonight, the Thunder might as well just pick some people out of the crowd at the Paycom Center, give them jerseys, and let them play because he didn't play last night. They were terrible. If he doesn't play tonight, it's going to be even worse playing a team like Boston.
Best head for legal seafood and have dinner. That'd probably be their best bet. Speaking of bets, we talk about Chris's parlays, which you can get emailed to you, special picks emailed to you. That's in the show box below, along with all the information with MGM. Here's the fun thing, okay? We're putting together contests. Now, what we want you to do is watch the show, and if you take some of Chris's picks and put them together in parlays and, have some fun with it, and you hit a winning ticket, take the winning ticket and, shoot it to us via Twitter, and we'll put you in the mix for some winning events and some fun prizes coming up. We'll give you all the details. Give me a preview of it now, so be sure to pay attention because we're going to get into the 2 for the money, 4 for the show, and the whole situation here very soon. So just wanted to give you a heads up. It's coming soon. Be sure to, take those tickets and tweet them to us. And will put you in the mix for the contest, which is coming up. Also, one quick other mention, and we'll show you about that tomorrow, and that's going to be a Sweet 16 betting guide, which is for free, and you'll be able to get it. Brought to you by Winners and Whiners, who put together the whole tournament last week. And this week you're going to get a Sweet 16 booklet, which will come to you in the email. All that information will be in the show box tomorrow. So a couple of upcoming things to keep a look at. And so without any further ado, let's go to Two for the Money and talk about what's going on in that parlay possibilities. You got the Wiz and the Rockets.
Yeah, let's face it, the Rockets are terrible. They're not going to get any better. This game's at the Toyota Center, so it's even more entertaining to see the Rockets be an underdog against a team in Washington that has gone nowhere. You look at the injury report. Eric Gordon questionable. Usman Garuba, who's been out for a couple months, is questionable for the Rockets as he's trying to come back from surgery. Actually, they've now downgraded him to out. Meanwhile, of course, for Washington, we know Bradley Beal will not play. Vernon Carey also out. And Kyle Kuzma is questionable with tendinitis in his knee. But let's face it, Houston has been brutal. We watched them lose to Memphis by 24 points yesterday, so they're playing the second game of a back-to-back situation here. Meanwhile, the Wiz coming off a 127-119 win over the Lakers the other night. Let's just take a look at what Houston's done in these exciting games and the second game of back-to-backs, just so you can get an idea of how bad they are.
Well, Chris is looking that up real quick, super slide. The answer to the question is yes. Nathan says he doesn't have Twitter. Nathan, if you take it and if you let us know that you did it, then we'll make arrangements to get you an email so you can email us that. And here's one other quick one, which is, oops, wrong one, sorry. You say James wants to know, are you picking the Wizards tonight? And the answer is yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Houston in the second game of back-to-backs this season. This is their 12th back-to-back, so in the first 11, Houston is 0-11, and they've been outscored by 15.8 points a game. They're giving up 124.3 points a night in those situations. Those are some ugly numbers. I don't care who you are. Scott did. Scott...
it was 9, wasn't it?
Well, Scott took the 6 Thursday, where we had all the underdogs like Richmond and New Mexico State and all those guys. So, yeah, he did. But unfortunately, he's not eligible for the contest.
That's right. Tori wants to know if you like Ohio.
Ohio's in a tough spot because they're playing Abilene Christian. And again, it's not a team that anybody really knows a ton about, because they're never on TV. I actually leaned towards Abilene Christian, but it's one of those games where it's going to be close no matter which way you go. I like that Abilene Christian came off an impressive win over Troy yesterday. They won by 12. They ran all the way to the WAC title game before falling to New Mexico State. We saw what New Mexico State did in the tournament. Meanwhile, Ohio had to slip by Rice by 1. I liked Ohio earlier in the season. I didn't like them down the stretch when they lost 4 out of 5 in the regular season, and then lost to Kent State in the semifinals of the MAC tournament. I'm going to lean towards Abilene Christian. I think it's only on like a 1-point line, or at least that's what it was earlier. I'll just take a look and see if it changed real quick.
Zach has a quick question here.
It's a question about tacos.
No, I wish it were. So you give the money line and the spread. Are you playing the spread or the money line?
In this case, I'm playing the spread, but I also put them both up because some people hate money lines, some people hate spreads, some people don't want to give points. So by putting them both up, it allows people to make that choice themselves, as opposed to being hammered into one side of the coin and case they don't like it. Because there's a lot of people that don't want to give more than 4 or 5 points, so they would rather chase the money line, even if it doesn't give as much of a return on investment, because it's a safer option. On the flip side, there's some people that hate money lines and want to give points, even if it's like the UConn women were favored by 28. There's people that, will do that anyway. So it's all a matter of preference. I just put them both up because it gives people the option to go with what's comfortable, what they're most comfortable with.
We trust you too, Nathan. One more quick question, and this has to do with your next game. And that is, seeing a lot of people in Northern Colorado, Craig, Allie, and Sean so far. By the way, those are all of our buddies who come on before us. So there you go.
Well, I mean, that's the great thing about this business is, not everybody has to agree about which way they go. I like Northern Colorado at times. I've also watched them play terrible basketball at times. I mean, they lost to Idaho State in a game where I thought they were going to blow Idaho State out of the water. And then, they failed to show up. I'm looking at the fact that, UNC Asheville, they came in off a big win over Stephen F. Austin. The Lumberjacks, a very good basketball team. They also have a day off, whereas, we had to watch Northern Colorado slip by Florida Atlantic yesterday, so they're playing the second game of a back-to-back situation. And that's something that they're not really used to doing. On top of that, I'm concerned about Northern Colorado's defense. Steve Smiley's team, 317th in defensive efficiency. They're 292nd in effective field goal percentage, and they don't force a lot of turnovers. They're just 344th in turnover percentage forced at 14.3. On top of that, they get lit up from the perimeter. Opposing teams shoot better than 38% from beyond the arc against them. UNC Asheville, they can get beat on the glass, but they'll also make life difficult for a perimeter shooting team, and that's what Northern Colorado is. Northern Colorado lives and dies by three-point shooting. And if they're not going down, it's a rough night for the Bears. You look at some of their losses earlier this year when they were beaten, like that Idaho State game where they had scored 100 points the game before against Southern Utah, went to face Idaho State on the road and scored 58. It's hard to have faith in a team like that on a regular basis. Plus, they don't go very deep in their rotation. Playing the second game of back-to-back after logging, four of their starters played at least 32 minutes. 2 other guys played at least 20. There's not a ton of depth there for Smiley's team, and if they don't knock down threes, they're in trouble. And if you look at UNC Asheville, like I said, 4th in the country in three-point defense at 28.1%. They can make things tough. I'm going to stick with UNC Asheville just because it's always fun to be different. Stephen F. Austin lost a lot of people the other day because I thought that they were going to take care of UNC Asheville the other day. But hey, give credit to the Bulldogs. They showed up. Stephen F. Austin, I guess, didn't care. And like Bill says, UNC Asheville is Cashville. Of course, the Avalanche over the Oilers because we talked about that. Colorado is dangerous offensively at home. That's a major challenge for anybody, especially an Edmonton team that's, last I checked, they're allergic to defense, and they were hoping that Zyrtec can help them work through it. Not sure if that's panned out.
So, let's go. We know what we talked about the Avalanche and the Edmonton Oilers. So let's move on to 4 for the show.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Utah. Of course, this is another line that moved overnight because Utah was a 2-point underdog. Now all of a sudden they're favored by 1.5 points. I mean, we know Kyrie Irving can't play because this game's at the Barclays Center. I know that there's still a lot of people aggravated about that, but it is what it is. Of course, you don't have Ben Simmons. You won't have LaMarcus Aldridge. Joe Harris done for the year. So it's going to be a thinned-out rotation. Goran Dragic is questionable with a sore knee. It's going to be a thinned-out rotation for Brooklyn. Utah won't have Bojan Bogdanovic. He's still with a calf strain. Udoka Azubuike is out with an ankle sprain. And Trent Forrest, though, is probable with a wrist Utah beat the Knicks yesterday at Madison Square Garden. You have to think that they can beat the Nets. They blew them out in Utah earlier this season. Durant can't do everything by himself. That's the tough part when the Nets are at home. I'm going to take Utah with the points. Look at that. Skip ahead. Yeah, we talked about South Alabama and USC Upstate. South Alabama, probably one of the toughest non-NCAA tournament teams left in these smaller tournaments. They're playing at home. They should take care of USC Upstate rather comfortably. The Jaguars very good defensively. USC Upstate, not so much. We talked about the Heat. This is another line that shifted. They were originally an underdog. They're now favored by 2.5 over Philadelphia. The 76ers, of course, playing the second game of a back-to-back. Joel Embiid, watch out for. He is questionable tonight with a sore back. I'm wondering if that's what prompted the line shift, because, of course, if he doesn't play, that takes a big weapon out of the Philadelphia rotation, puts more on Harden and company. Plus, we're looking at the fact Philadelphia lost yesterday to the Raptors, falling 93-88 at home. So this will be their third game in 4 nights, second game of a back-to-back situation. Miami hasn't played since Friday when they took down Oklahoma City at home. Just a quick look at the injury report on that. Jimmy Butler is questionable with an ankle sprain. Caleb Martin questionable with a hyperextended knee. You are not expected to see Victor Oladipo tonight. He's dealing with back spasms. Gabe Vincent has a toe issue. He's also ruled out, at least at this point. But watch for the Embiid injury. If they rule him out, earlier or with time before tip-off, you'll probably see that line shift. So always watch out for that. Keep an eye out to see if anything changes.
Let's go to the menu.
The menu. You should get like a voiceover guy for that.
Right.
Maybe we can't get Don LaFontaine, the voiceover guy for all the movie trailers.
Right. Hey, Darnell, keep a lookout here. He was asking us about South Alabama. And,
just talked about it in the floor for the show.
Right. So here you go.
Middle Tennessee over Boston U. I know Pete Medhurst knows a lot about Boston U. He's maybe knocked them out in the semifinals. Boston U is a tough team, but I think Middle Tennessee, they've played good basketball this year. I like the way the Blue Raiders have put things together. Maybe they'll be a force again in Conference USA, unless they're another one of those teams that's moving. I don't know if you remember if they were on that list or not, Jim, because there's so many teams that are changing conferences.
Who are we talking about moving down?
Middle Tennessee.
No, they're staying where they are.
Okay, there. Well, there you go. Finally, a team that's not going somewhere else.
Staying where they're supposed to be.
The problem for Boston U is that once you get past Sukmail Mathon and Javante McCoy, there's not a ton of offensive weapons to lean on. And those two guys finish more than half their possessions as far as taking shots and things like that. McCoy takes 29.7% of the shots for BU possessions where he's on the floor. Mathon takes shots on 23.3 shots of his possessions. They don't shoot the ball well from the perimeter. Meanwhile, you're dealing with the Middle Tennessee team: Cam Weston, Donovan Sims, Eli Lawrence, Josh Jefferson. They've got 3 guys that have knocked down at least 48 threes. They're good defensively. They should come out victorious there. Moving on, like I said, I like Abilene Christian over Ohio. I know Ohio has experience, but Abilene Christian is no pushover. They were in the tournament, I want to say, was it a year or 2 ago?
It was 2 years ago, yeah.
I mean, I know that, they didn't blow anybody out because it's tough when you're a smaller team. Yeah, actually, they beat Texas last year in the first round.
Oh, was it like? Okay.
Yeah, there was no tournament in 2020.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But at Abilene Christian, one thing you got to watch out for with the Bulldogs, they're number 1 in the country in turnover percentage on the defensive side of the ball, 26.5%. So they'll make teams turn the ball over, and that's bad news. Or I'm sorry, that was last year's team was number 1. Oh, they're number 1 this year too at 28.5%. So they're even better at forcing turnovers. And they're a team, they lost to Texas A&M in double overtime way early in the season, and they got hot down the stretch. They were 11-7. Now they're 24-10, so they won 13-16. Don't sleep on Abilene Christian. Like I said, USC Upstate and South Alabama, I look to go over the total. I just think USC Upstate's defense will have all kinds of issues trying to slow South Alabama. So South Alabama should put up 75, 80 points and help this one over the mark. By the same token, Florida Gulf Coast is going to run into issues. Yeah, you're right. It is the Wildcats. I don't know what I was thinking, Nathan. Sorry about that. They all run together. There's so many teams that I look at. It actually says Wildcats. I was just talking about Bobcats, I think, with Ohio. It's been a long day. Florida Gulf Coast, Coastal Carolina, I look to stay under the number. I think Coastal will take air out of the ball, make Florida Gulf Coast settle for bad shots, and keep that one in check. Will Middle Tennessee control the tempo? Boston U's not a team that likes to run either.
Right.
Middle Tennessee comes in ranked, 168th in tempo at 67.4 possessions a game. Boston is 277th at 65.2. So that's not a matter of, one team wants to run and the other doesn't. Both teams are pretty, like I said, Middle Tennessee is middle of the road. BU is below average in tempo. They'll probably control the flow of the game. I mean, Boston doesn't want to run any more than they have to. But in the end, I think the Blue Raiders should still take care of business.
Quick question on them.
I think Nathan's right. I think they'll lead at the half and they'll lead at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only a 5-point line, so it's not like it's horribly bad like some of the other ones we've seen. In the NBA, what has to be the strangest thing ever, the Detroit Pistons are favored over somebody. The Pistons, they've been good at being an underdog, covering lines of late. Coming into this one, Detroit is 9-1 against the spread in their last 10. If you go further out, that number actually gets even better as they are 11-1 in their last 12 against the spread after an ATS win. And they are, I want to say that they're 12-1 or 13-1 in their last 16, or 14 overall, 13-3 in their last 16 against the spread. They're facing a Portland team that played yesterday and did not look good. They got smashed by Indiana by 31 points. I mean, come on, we're talking about Indiana, who has basically no players at this point because they traded them all the way. And they got Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton. But still, you let Indiana shoot 48 of 84 from the floor, so 57%. We're talking about Indiana.
Yeah.
And this is the third game in 4 nights for Portland. All of them on the road. They played in Brooklyn. They played in Indiana. Now they'll play here in Detroit. It's the end of their road trip. Josh Hart not expected to play. He's supposed to be rested. Also out, Eric Bledsoe, Joe Ingles, of course, with knee surgery. Damian Lillard, of course. Nasir Little. And apparently Yusuf Nurkic is also out. And Anthony Simons. So good news if you're anywhere near the Motor City tonight. The Trailblazers need players.
Darnell wants to know
one of the lucky fans picked to play.
Do you trust the Pistons or the Cavs on the over tonight? Or to cover, I'm sorry, to cover.
To cover. Yeah, I trust the Pistons to cover. I just named all the guys that are missing for Portland. I know that Detroit is listing Hamidou Diallo is out with a broken finger, Jeremy Graham with knee inflammation, Frank Jackson still dealing with back issues. Kelly Olynyk is questionable, but Kane Cunningham's supposed to play. Sadiq Bey hung 51 against Orlando last week. I mean, he's a good weapon. And like I said, Portland is a gutted rotation right now. I'm not sure who the hell they're going to have to suit up as their starting 5. Probably a bunch of guys that should be in the G League. And the Cavs, I put them in the 2 for the money part.
Right.
I think I had them up there. So yeah, I look for them to cover too. The Lakers are not good.
Got the Pistons and the Blazers.
Yeah,
and now we move on to the Bulls and the Raptors.
Yeah, the Raptors, like we said, they're playing the second game of back-to-back. They played in Philadelphia last night. They're going to face Chicago. The Bulls need some wins. I mean, they've struggled of late. To take a look, see Toronto. OG Anunoby will play. Malachi Flynn out with a hamstring. Gary Trent Jr. also supposed to be out with a hyperextended big toe. For the Bulls, Lonzo Ball still out. Patrick Williams is going to make his return after having wrist surgery way back in October. So that's a boost for the Bulls. Yes, Daryl, Josh Hart is scary. Unfortunately, Josh Hart's not playing for Portland. So
there's that.
Yeah, so he can be scary on the bench, but he's not going to scare anybody on the court.
Mm-hmm.
The Hornets over the Pelicans, another team. I believe New Orleans played yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Oh yeah, they beat Atlanta. That's right. So now they've got to play the second game of back-to-back. The Hornets, of course, did not play yesterday, I don't think, because there were so many games on different channels. No, they played. That's right. They played Saturday and crushed Dallas, which was a surprise. But Charlotte's won 4 in a row now, which is strange.
Yes.
Yeah. Just taking a look. We know Zion Williams is not going to play, so hopefully nobody asks him at that. Other guys for New Orleans. Devontae Graham is questionable with a sore hip. Brandon Ingram supposedly still out. Larry Nance Jr. and Keir Lewis out. Gordon Hayward is out for the Hornets. He continues to deal with an ankle issue, but everybody else expected to suit up for Charlotte. I'll take the Hornets minus the points. The Bruins over the Canadians, like Nathan said, on the puck line, or if the money line is there too, if anybody wants to chase that. Like we said, Montreal's a team in flux. They're not very good. Edmonton over Colorado.
We talked about that one, yeah.
Yeah, well, going over here too. Like we said, Colorado scores a lot of goals at home. And Edmonton likes to give up goals. And finally, Nashville over Anaheim. The Ducks are going the wrong way in the playoff chase at the wrong time. As now they're entering tonight's action. They are coming in. Let's see how many points behind are they now. Take a look at the wild card standings. It shows that Anaheim now has 7 points back of Vegas. They've got to leapfrog 3 teams to get to Vegas. Nashville has 76 points. They hold the top wild card spot.
James has a quick question before we leave here, and that is any 3-team parlay you like today. That's kind of what we put the menu up there for, so you have lots of options. But anything you...
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with Washington, the Wizards over the Rockets, and then go with the Cavs over the Lakers. And if I was going to throw a third one in, I'd probably take Colorado over Edmonton. I just don't have any faith in the Oilers slowing anybody down at this point. As far as taking overs, Minnesota and Dallas will probably go over just because of the fact that Minnesota doesn't play defense and they score a lot of points. Charlotte, New Orleans. I mean, Charlotte's allergic to defense. New Orleans is playing the second game of a back-to-back situation. We're just going to see what they do in those situations this season. Let's see. Splits. There we go.
While Chris is looking that up, don't forget that we said a little earlier, what we want you to do is when you show us your winning tickets, and because you watched the picks and parlays and you've used any of the combinations that Chris put out there, send it to us via Twitter and you could win a prize. We're putting together that contest. It's going to come together soon, but this gives you a chance to get started and get an early jump when we start that contest. And we'll have a Sweet 16, a big Sweet 16 primer for you coming up free of charge, and that will be something to look forward to. Also, check out everything we got in the show box below from BetMGM, from Chris's picks, and all kinds of fun stuff in the show box below. Chris, you got what you need there, buddy?
Yeah, looking at the numbers numbers, New Orleans only scores 104.3 points a game in the second game of back-to-backs this year, and they give up 112.3. They're 2 and 10 in those situations. I probably wouldn't touch the total on that because they've got it at 234.5. But this being the third game in 4 nights for the Pelicans, I don't know if they can generate enough offense to get you over that number, and I wouldn't trust Charlotte to go and hang up 140 to do it for you. I hate dealing with totals in situations like that, so I would leave it alone myself.
There you go.
And the Cavs and the Lakers, I mean, the Cavs are good at scoring defense. The Lakers aren't, but Cleveland doesn't score a ton of points. That total's at 227. I don't know if they'll get there.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And so, any final questions, kids, before we get out of here on a Monday? Going once, going twice. Be back here tomorrow. Be sure, as it says right there, to, on your way out, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you can be with us every day, Monday through Friday, at 2 p.m. right here on the Max Wagers Network. Okay? So, for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying so long, guys. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you come Tuesday. All right? Okay. Until then, be safe and enjoy. Okay.
No.
Yeah. So, there you go.
How these people come in and ask the same questions over and over again after we already covered the game? Like, what do you think about South Alabama and USC Upstate? Well, it was the first slide we did.
Right. For those of you just joining us, yeah, I'm feeling fine. Okay. Go out and have a good time. So, yeah, it's a lot of... what do you think about something we just asked you 5 minutes ago?
Hey, what do you think about? What do you think about? It's like that old Chris Farley skit on Saturday Night Live when he would interview people